Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Anusha. I'm your host for today. Welcome to Mike's webinar series, Road to Recovery Season 2, Episode 5, Malaysia Smart City Outlook Review Current, Envision Tomorrow. With us today, we have our moderator, Hazmi Yusof, Managing Director, Frost & Sullivan, and distinguished panelists. Madam Haja Nuraini Roslan, Mayor Subang Jaya City Council, Dr. Zaidi Raza, General Manager, Sarawak Multimedia Authority, and Muhammad Nasir Habiza, CEO and Founder, Go Vehicles Sdn Bhd. To begin the session, let me invite T.S. Zulkifli Muhammad, Senior Principal Analyst 1, Malaysia Industry Government Group for High Technology, MITE, to give the overview of Malaysia's Smart City Outlook. Please, Tihazul.
Okay, thank you, Anusha. Okay, okay. Good afternoon to our moderator Hazmi, and also to our panelist Dr. Zaidi from SMA, and TPR Raja Nohaini YDP Subang Jaya, and also Muhammad Nasir, CEO of Go Vehicles Sdn Bhd, fellow distinguished guests, friends, and ladies and gentlemen. Okay, and as you know, MSCO 2021-2022 has been launched by our chairman just now in the AGM at 3 o'clock. And this webinar is actually a follow through from that event where we will further deliberate, and I will be providing the scene setting to brief the audience and also on how our journey in the MSCO Outlook. And later, Hazmi will bring you all on to deliberate further with the panelists in their area of interest. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this Malaysia Smart City Outlook 2021-2022 is actually a collaboration projects between MITE and Convex Hub, where MITE is providing the analysts and also the platform for Convex Hub to. Convex Hub is our partner in providing events and also content, and also help us in developing the Smart City Outlook as a whole. It serves as a reference on the key Smart City initiative, and it's also provide opportunities for industry players to showcase their strengths and market-leading innovation. But its focus is more on the technology applications in relation to the 7 components of the smart cities through the sharing of experience by the industry players and technology providers. Next. Okay, I would like to share what very important element of this outlook is we derive what is the Malaysia Smart City industry ecosystems looks like. Generally, it's a vibrant, sustainable ecosystem which comprises of the people, organizations, business to be integrated together to create the desired outcome. The figure shows that the Malaysia Smart City ecosystem is made of multiple layers, hence its own role in the smart city, where the different stakeholders in various layers need to integrate and coordinate with each other in order to carry out a common goal or direction. As you can see at the upper layer, we have got the policy makers, which is leading by the ministry. We set direction, vision, and aspiration to drive the smart city agenda. Here we have the lead ministry, KPKT, tasked in overseeing the implementation of smart cities in the country. The second layer is the regulators and also facilitators, where it comprises of the agencies. Here you can see like Prime Malaysia, JKT, IKPKT Urbanist, and also supporting like here MIND and the rest, which is shown in the table. Okay, the regulator and facilitator is supporting bodies that provide regulatory support, consultancy, and standards for the implementation of smart city, spearheading the implementing, monitoring, measuring, and also the development of smart city. The next layer is the practitioners or the association, which act as an active advocates for the city, innovation hub for new business, supporting professionals to apply for the principle of smart city, and also will innovate innovation for solutions. And the next layer is the enablers or the providers, where it helps in building the ecosystem, where you can see it It is comprises of system integrators, telco companies, platform providers, application developers, and so forth. And last but not least is the end users, where they are the beneficiaries in the ecosystem, that are naturally the communities, NGO, and also the academia. And at the bottom, you have got the financial investment institution for higher learning and research institute that is providing the funding and human skill resources to support the whole development of the smart city industry ecosystem. Next, please. Okay, if you, from our outlook, we identified these are the driving factors why cities are moving towards smart city. Generally, rapid urbanization, as you know, dealing with issues such as environmental pollution, road congestion, and also natural disaster, and the inefficient use of energy, water, and other resources leads that a city needs to move towards smart city and sustainable cities, and also the commitment of the city towards the new urban agenda. Embracing the smart city model demonstrate measure support towards this agenda. And the global trend of disruptive technology adoption also managing challenges posed by the growth and expansion of the country cities using new and trend disruptive technologies adoption. So these are the factors, and not also to forget of the driving towards digital economy, where the deployment of intelligent and smart technology in smart city provides the ground for the growth of digital commerce. And also, last but not least, is the competition for FDI and DDI, where positioning Malaysia to be on par with other cities. If you are moving towards smart cities and sustainable cities, there will be more opportunities for investment, either foreign or domestic investment to your cities. Next. Okay, generally the outlook focuses on the 7 components, that is the economy, government, community, digital infrastructure, mobility, living, and environment. These are the factors that has been what you call it, research and analysis, and this has been done together with our stakeholders through workshops and also through consultation, survey, and so forth. And this is to be in line with our Malaysia Smart City framework, where inside there we have got the 7 components, which is related to the smart economy, smart government, community, digital infrastructure, mobility, smart living, and also smart environment. Next. Next, please. Okay. Okay, this is important. From the outlook, the scene that we can see is that the gaps, the gaps here is actually one that we see the gaps from our research and analysis is that is on the smart government, is the silo big data sharing, where silo is actually the clarity of vision of the organization, components, and information, where people are not less likely to collaborate, share information, and work together. The gaps is also to limit open data platform for public usage, and also inadequate data analytics expertise, low interagency exchange of knowledge, and dependence on the hierarchical communication structures. For smart economy, we identify the gaps as the inadequate technology literacy talent. Along the smart city journey, we face major problem on the possessing technology literacy talent that able to be easily utilized by a variety of digital devices, especially on digital economy era, because there are inadequate living labs for entrepreneurship programs, and also issues on slow adoption of automation, mechanization, and robotics. Of course, for the smart digital infrastructure, as you know, the common issues among all cities are the low internet connectivity, where there are many reasons internet connection might appear slow, as many cities could not afford to have sufficient infrastructure to channel their strong bandwidth and Wi-Fi communication. And smart environment, here we identify that the low adoption of clean and renewable energy, where the factors that preventing RE to be adopted are due to lack of financial institution or lack of investors, and also fewer subsidies compared to the traditional fuels. And there is also insufficient usage of census technology to be utilized, to be integrated for the disaster and waste management, and inadequate green inventory of spaces. And for the smart mobility, the common problem is the first and last mile, and also, the integrated transportation system, and also there is not sufficient infrastructure in certain cities. And smart living, we have the low rate of digitalization in public utilities and service. And for the smart community, low public engagement, where this is a knowledge gap to bridge between citizens and government officials in complex decision-making process. And also, there is also inadequate long life learning programs and platform. There is inadequate level of civic mindedness also come into play in the smart community. So this is generally the findings of what we have discovered during the development of the Malaysia Smart City Outlook 2021-2022. Next. From the outlook, we did some workshop brainstorming with the stakeholders, and also here are some of the recommendations, but it's not carved in stone. Generally, these recommendations are some of the recommendations that need to be further deliberated in the coming next open publication, where for the smart government, we see that there need to be a secure open data platform. And for the smart economy, there need to be collaboration on commercialization of digital products and services, and also to have more living labs and sandboxing program for entrepreneurships, and to increase digitalization among SMEs. Of course, for the digital infrastructure is the needs to create more ICT infrastructure, and they need to innovate for new business model in getting investment by private organizations. For smart environment, is to increase the clean and renewable energy in public utilities, and also need to enhance the usage of sensors and enforce the adoption of green building programs. Of course, for smart mobility, we need to further facilitate the infrastructure development for micro mobility, and need to strengthen the integrated public transport system, where it can lead to also improving the first and last mile solutions. And generally, as you can see there, smart living is that security, safety, and to enhance public surveillance system is also crucial. And for the smart community, I think we need to look at the education system on how we can enhance the education system for the community to be technology literate that could use whatever has been established in the smart city. Next. Okay, generally, what we discovered interestingly, these are some of these are the major areas, where potential area for smart city business opportunities, where you can see that for the in order there is potential what you call it, I can say opportunities in the one is on the big data sharing and platform, where generally industry should focus in this area, especially on the open data platform, data analytics, and so forth. Because, as you know, in moving to smart city, in the implementation of using sensors and so forth, you know, there will be more and more data collected. So there will be opportunities in this area. On digitalization and electronic systems, as you know, this is common, where everybody is moving to digitalization and contactless payment, digital economy, e-commerce, blockchain, and e-services. Of course, with the current pandemic, you know, we need to move towards contactless payment and move toward digitalization in order to be adopt to the new norm. For well-being improvement, we have to, the focus area or the business model is in the smart health system and also the smart education system. And in the city and community infrastructure, of course, this is where the challenge is, where you need to, you know, if the investment will be a lot on the providing the high-speed internet and also smart connectivity, smart parking, smart lighting, smart pole, and so forth. But anyway, a new business model need to be actually be innovative in order on how we can increase the community infrastructure. And last but not least is in the business opportunities in the system and monitoring management. You know, it can be in the cybersecurity, smart monitoring, you have smart traffic management. Later, one of the panelists will talk about also about smart parking, you have smart building system, and so forth. So I can say that the Malaysia Smart City Outlook really lead us to identify what are the potential business opportunities, what are the gaps, and how can we capitalize and how can we move forward in implementing smart cities project. So anyway, next slide. Okay, generally The Outlook is available to be downloaded in our My ICSC website, that is http://icsc-my.org, or through our partner Conference Hub in their website, that which is which is listed on the screen. Okay. Later the moderator and the panelists will further deliberate on what are their opportunities or what the areas that could be, what you call it, further capitalized or could be further enhanced, and see on how we could close the gaps that has been discovered in the Malaysia Smart City Outlook. Okay, with that, I will hand over back to Anusha.
Thank you, Tiazul. For our next session, I would like to welcome our moderator, Hazmi Yusuf. He has been in the business of advisory and consultation industry since 2001. His expertise lies in business and market intelligence and business strategies. His experience in smart city related engagements started in 2014. Since then, his smart city journey has taken him to different countries in Asia, Taiwan, Nepal, and as far as Portugal. Without further ado, I would like to hand over this session to our moderator, Mr. Hazmi Yusuf, to proceed. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anusha. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, Hazmi.
Okay,
Yes.
I can. Thank you for the privilege to moderate this very established, esteemed group of panelists, and I'm very happy to be part of this. I think I also like to congratulate Mind and Convex Hub in producing quite an insightful report and update of smart city in Malaysia and how it can move forward. So I would like to congratulate them for a good report. And this session is very much derived from the report which was given to me a couple of days earlier, so that I can put the context together for this session. So I'm going to split the session into four, very much to address, I think, at one angle is what the report would like to cover, number one. Number two, I think common questions many businesses is asking about smart city or a smart state. So I would like to kind of get these two perspectives together to have a bit more granular insights in terms of what's going to happen next, especially in this challenging pandemic time. So the first part is very much to do with, and this is a common question that is asked, funding and financing, and what is the right business model to get this thing going. Sometimes you have an idea, but requires funding. From the authority side, they would like to see initiative or project that's sustainable, that's able to be funded by itself, so that funds can be channeled elsewhere. So these are all this combination of what are the roles or different ecosystem of smart city can play in terms of funding and financing. And the second part is relating to that, which is the sustainability and the growth of these initiatives. Oftentimes we see in smart cities, not just in Malaysia, but all across the globe, where after a few years, this project kind of grind to a stop because there are either lack of funding or there are just simply no utilization by the group of people or the segment of people that it's trying to address. So here we would like to understand better in terms of what can we do in order to make sure that these initiatives have a long life cycle, or maybe even modular in terms of its adoption out there. Third, and I think this is a very pertinent question, it cuts across the different silos. Therefore, this is a horizontal issue, and I think this is a question that's asked in the Outlook many times, which is data. So data is definitely the new oil, but what are we doing? How do we understand data, and how do we put data as a strategy? How do we define big data, how to define small data, and an important part of this is the privacy and security of this data. And fourthly, I think a very important question, and this relates to part number 2, which is sustainability, is can data be a revenue stream for government, for service providers, and users? So that's one of the things that we would like to discuss in this panel session. And the last point is, again, it was touched very often in the report, is human capital. Many initiatives out there that has that's great, good ad, for example, out there, but in terms of public awareness, it is very low. Many people just doesn't know that there is smart apps that is digitally driven and which they are able to leverage. I think the awareness part is something that not just in Malaysia, I think everywhere else grappling in terms of how do we increase that awareness, how do we increase that adoption, and so on. So those are the 4 parts that we would like to cover. So moving on, I would like to introduce my first panelist. My first panelist is Dr. Zaidi Raza, General Manager of Sarawak Multimedia Authority. Firstly, let me just give a little background on Sarawak Multimedia Authority. I think when you talk about Sarawak as a smart state, I think many initiatives adopted by Sarawak Multimedia Authority has the right trajectory or has the right track to become a smart state. So it's very exciting what's happening in Sarawak as an analyst perspective. So there are many initiatives that Sarawak has planned. Some are at the rolling out stage. Some has been rolled out. So there are many things happening in Sarawak. So Dr. Zaidi, let me ask you by asking you the first introductory question. Can you share with us Sarawak Multimedia Authority best practices in terms of creating the right momentum for Sarawak to move forward digitally, especially when we are anticipating this economic recovery post-MCO?
Yeah, thank you, Azmi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you also to Mike and Convex Hub for inviting us as one of the panelists here. Okay, when we talk about SMA, I just want to give a brief history of us here in Sarawak. When Chief Minister resumed the office, what he wanted is to get Sarawak to be a forefront of this digital economy. And for that, we have gathered all these agencies, be it department agency, be it statutory body or JLC that we have, and we also invited the other private sectors to give view on what will be the best practice, what will be the best strategy to bring us into become this digital powerhouse in Malaysia. All right. The 3 basic things in digital economy and what we have gathered during our session is to have 3 basic elements in digital economy, which is this digital ID, digital payment platform, and also the data itself. All right. So what we have currently, we have launched our Sarawak Pay in 2018, and in the same year, we have launched also our Sarawak Open or Sarawak Open Data Sharing, which every agency have to contribute their data to the public, so the public can access the data, can use the data for other kind of applications here. All right, and then we also launched a Sarawak ID, all right, in 2018. For that, like now, what we have in Sarawak ID, we have more than 800,000 Sarawakian and non-Sarawakian registered as our members, as Sarawak ID users. You can imagine that if any of these entrepreneurs, all right, try to get their user base, they can use our Sarawak ID as a user base. All right. We have a policy that any of our entrepreneurs that we have developed in our digital innovation hubs, they can use and then they can get the API to connect to our Sarawak ID. And also, we have a free onboarding for the Sarawak Pay. So they don't have to pay anything, all right? And then this ecosystem is actually the best practice that we want to put and we want to offer to our people, our entrepreneurs here, all right? This is what Sarawak intend to do, to create the best ecosystem for this digital economy, all right? And for that, we to get how to get the other the community to use it, right? Before we get this community to use, like for example, the Sarawak Pay or any of our digital implementation that we have here, we must get our own agency to use it, all right, to offer to the people. Like for example, our utilities now accepting Sarawak Pay as a part of a payment channel, all right, and also our local council to get to also adopt this channel. All right. So the people will rightly will use this channel to pay because it provides convenience, right? And also we engage with our GLC or our statutory body to provide a more granularity of the data, more meaningful data. All right, it cannot just the one division to produce a ton or 16 or 60 tons of pineapple. All right, that data is not meaningful. All right, but we need more data. For example, what type of pineapple, what type of, how to grow it, how to what the period to grow it, where actually this pineapple and when actually this pineapple will can get or can harvest it. This kind of data that we need, right, from the other agency. This is what we want to have in Sarawak. For that also, we have to establish, we have established actually our ordinance, right? Before we can go and compel this other agency to follow us, what we want is a puncak kuasa, all right? What we want is source of power. So we go direct to Dewan Undangan Negeri, all right? Dewan Undangan Negeri to get our ordinance approved, right? With that ordinance, we have a vast power to get other authority to work with us. If it's just a jawatan kuasa, I mean, in Malaysia, if it's just jawatan kuasa, people would not listen. All right. But if it already approved, endorsed in Dewan Undangan Negeri, then you have that power to get other people to into this journey. This is what we have. All right. And furthermore, when we develop the strategy, all right, we get all the agency to contribute what the best thing or what you want in this digital economy, what you want in this digital transformation. And from there, we have to analyze it, whether it is a cost benefit, whether it just to get the technology driven, or whether it just become nice to have, but the community will left behind. So we have to strategize how to get the agency adapt it, but the community also to adopt it. So we have what I can say is a very comprehensive strategy, Yasmi, whereby we have a digital inclusivity, not just for the people in the city itself, all right, but we also did the program in the rural area. Even though you can see that we don't have what we call this coverage in the rural areas, with the limited coverage that we have, we will never left them behind. Right? we want to bring them into a digital so that whenever they go to the city, they are prepared. They know what to do, right? For example, we have also park and go, like go vehicle, also have Jom parking. So they are familiar with this digital technology. Right? Most of the people in the city itself. So that's why when I give talk to other my staff or other agency, the smart city is not to turn city into a smart, but to turn people into this smart community, whereby the smart community will use this technology. But if they are not smart, they will not use that technology. So the best practice that we have here is a comprehensive strategy, and also we implement what we feel that need to be done or not nice to have, need to be done, not nice to have here. All right. All right, because you can see that you have a face recognition. Yeah, it's good. All right, but we also have that in our pipeline. Later I will touch on this, why we need this integrated operation center. I think most of our local council in Malaysia have their own operation center, but in Sarawak, we combine the needs of this local council into one operation center so that we will maximize our investment, maximize our human resource and everything. Right. There you go, Azmi. What the best is what Sarawak have.
So I can deduce by saying that, it's all about the right level of collaboration and co-creation on your side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zaidi. I'm going to move on to my next panelist, Madam Mayor Haja Nuraini Roslan, Subang Jaya City Council. I think perhaps not many people outside of Selangor know this, but Subang Jaya received its city status in October 2020. So because everybody's in a lockdown, I guess congratulations to you, Mayor Haja Nuraini, on this city status. And I think not many people also know Subang Jaya received a very prestigious award called the United Nations Habitat Scroll of Honor around the same time. And this award basically recognized Subang Jaya City Council contributions in the field of improving urban lives, providing housing, and highlighting the poor or displaced. So it's quite a prestigious title. And I think back when I was starting in 2015 doing Smart City for Selangor, we also found out that Subang Jaya received the Green World Ambassador title from the Green organization based in London for its the Biomass Way initiative. And I think that followed by another Green Award by the Green Economy Forum in Berlin, another big global award. So a lot of awards went into Subang Jaya. Perhaps not many people know this. So I would probably say that MBSJ is very much aligned to the Selangor State vision of a smart state, and yes, a nation's digital economy push with all its initiatives in place. So, Madam Mayor, what are the new initiatives for MBSJ are you working on? What can we expect in the near future?
Thank you, Hazmi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Since 2020 has not been a very active year for everybody, we are still continuing with our living lab and command center that we have started from before 2020. Our living lab is a partnership between a few stakeholders, the service providers, the utility companies, from the government itself, to test out a few systems. I take for one example, merging CCTV for safe city with parking payment so that we can capture all the vehicles that is parked there and observing in our command center using the CCTV. We need to continue with that because of the COVID PKP slow down in all the other activities. I'm back to strengthening the infrastructure in the city, because there is an issue of access by the public, by the rakyat, for network connection, and it is sorely needed during this PKP. And we found out that the location of the pole, the base station that you call it, is not enough to cover all parts of the city. There are still black spots, despite being in Subang Jaya, despite being among the advanced city in Malaysia, we do have black spots still. And there are this habit of utility providers to do it for their own company. DG will do their DG tower, so we have so many towers having, and there is an objection from the population themselves. They want the service, but they don't want the tower to be near their house. So in managing this, we need to identify the suitable location, and we would like it to belong to the government. To, let's say Subang Jaya is the owner of the smart pole, and we can rent it out to any utility companies. Therefore, we don't have that many. And there is this experiment that we have in SS15, which Telekom Malaysia announced as the first 5G cities in Malaysia after Langkawi. We found out that the repeater, the smaller pole that needs to go into the user buildings and gadgets are not enough. So with the short wave of that 5G needed, we need more of that. So there are these infrastructure needs. There are also the continuous data sharing problems. But one identification of the location and who owns it and how do we share it, that's in the pipeline. I mean, I've already started discussion about that. And secondly, that is close to my heart, is providing free Wi-Fi to the low-cost households. We've been discussing with SSDU, the Selangor State Development Delivery Units for Smart Cities, and also a few utility companies on how we can rent the rooftop of the low-cost apartments or their open spaces to build a tower so that they can get some money in form of rental, or they can get free Wi-Fi to these poor people. And we are also assisting poor students to get gadgets, buying them secondhand, buying them cheaply, and providing them to those. Of course, we can't do it for everybody. I mean, I picked out the bottom 40 and giving it to those who excel in their studies after their SPM and wanting to go to the universities but may not have the gadgets. This is a part of my SDG program, Sustainable Development Goal Initiative, which empowers B40. These are the ones that we brought to the United Nations level, and we have been recognized for that. At the same time, there are need for data sharing between our departments. Previously, we have silo data storage center, whatever that they have. But now I do need to integrate it into executive information system where all the layers can be interconnected and read as far as partially mapped out. So we have the EIS already. The problem now is the updating of the data and the formatting. We have lots of data, but not in the format that one can be layered with the other, with the identical ID. And sometimes the legacy data are stored in such a way that we can't answer some questions, such as, I give you an example for license. Let's say we want to narrow down manufacturers of masks within Puchong area. But if the data is filled in a large row or column for that matter, under one title, alamat saja, but it's not subdivided into smaller detail like nombor bangunan, jalan, kawasan, and that. So it's very difficult to massage that data into getting the information that we need. And of course, there is problem of data sharing among agencies, other agencies. Everybody feel that I come up with cost to get this data. Why should I give it freely? But to settle the state's problem, for example, flooding may not know boundaries. Okay, to cover that data, we need all the number of households, roads, and infrastructure that is within that flood-prone area, regardless of city boundaries. So the state is doing that now, doing the GIS, as well as answering the designing the system aligned with the problem that we're facing. It's pain point basis rather than just collecting data for the sake of collecting data or analyzing for the sake of analyzing. There is also this effort of using what Selangkah have captured data for the COVID patients, and how we can use that data to help the small entrepreneurs to locate their businesses, because they would like to know what are the businesses nearby or within the area that they are going into that is already there. So there's a lot of things in the pipeline that I can go on until 5 o'clock, but I think I can stop there for now.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. It's very interesting, all the insights that you are giving us. Moving on to my third panelist, I tried to be an entrepreneur for a while and I failed miserably. So I have a very big respect, healthy respect to all these entrepreneurs out there. Like my next panelist is Encik Nasir Haniza, CEO of and founder of Go Vehicles and Berhad. Perhaps I see that there's about 100 over attendees here. Many among you probably have not heard of Go Vehicle, but you probably have heard of Jom Parking. So Jom Parking is under them. I got this in my phone here. I'm part of this Jom Parking app that I used back when I went to the office. Now I'm working from home. So personally, I love the app. So for the not so probably enlightened among us, I think smart parking may seem to be a fairly simplistic automation, but the impact it has is quite big in terms of the impact on better utilization of space, reduction of traffic, especially within the city center, when people are able to plan and not move around, look for parking, or therefore it reduces pollution. This digital platform reduces the need for management and operating costs. You don't have to go and walk around and find that coin machine to get your parking ticket and so on. It's contactless, it's ticketless, and so on. But the cascading impact it has has a larger benefit in our research as well, and it's shown. So coming back to Encik Nasir, firstly, tell us, how do you see smart mobility solutions kind of mapping out in the next couple of years from your perspective as the guy on the ground?
Thank you. Okay, so to answer your question, first and foremost, again, my name is Nasir from Go Vehicle. So yes, Go Vehicle might be new to all of us. We changed our name from Jom Parkir late last year. So actually, Go Vehicle is formerly known as Jom Parkir. So we are focusing on the mobility solutions, and we aim to accelerate mobility solutions to build the first vehicle data exchange in Southeast Asia. So we are more towards the V2X, or vehicle to everything. In one of our pillars, we have smart parking. And the rest of the pillar, we have smart servicing, smart agent, smart security, and also smart ticketing. So going back to the smart parking solutions. Okay, so we launched our service way back in 2015 in Dewan Bandar Kuala Lumpur. So at the time, this is a 100% homegrown product. So what we did was actually we did our own research and development, and from there we built up the prototype and until we launch it. And even for the version 1.0, there was also a lot of bugs, and we get the feedback from users and we fix it from time to time. Up to date, we have complete suite of smart parking solutions, ranging from parking payment, enforcement system, IoT, and so forth. So actually, coming back to this smart city, smart parking initiative. So by having this smart parking initiative, you can see first thing first, actually, we can reduce the costs which evolve in this or which incurred by the local councils. For instance, before this, people like us need to use a physical coupon. You know, we buy one book of coupon that consists of maybe 10 pieces. You know, and then now we convert into a digital coupon. So today we have a product called GoPay, which is focusing or addressing this issue. Meaning to say, actually, we're addressing that the needs of changing the physical coupons into a digital coupons. And by having this, we can minimize or reduce the cost for the local council easily by 20 to 30%. And also by having these smart parking solutions, you know, we can of course we can gather a lot of data at the same time. You know, from data actually we can do a lot of things. For instance, you know, we know that on this particular time frame, for example, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, there are so many people on the road, for example, you know, from the data. So we know that, okay, so this is something that we can channel the data into the local councils or certain authorities. How to link this data into traffic information, for instance, so that we can minimize the pollution of churning out the carbon, for instance. Yeah, and also by having this smart parking solution, actually, especially when we are in this COVID arena or area right now, or time right now, actually, by having this smart parking solution, we can minimize the physical contact. For example, now before this we use physical coins or notes. You know, this is one good example that we did for our clients in Saudi. We launched a solution called Parkey in Saudi, which is 100% cashless solutions. And this services been used by various solutions. For example, valet, 100% valet solution, whereby they can call for the car right from the apps itself. So there are two types of app, from the consumer and also the parking attendant. We also have the off-street parking solution utilizing the QR code. So and the response is very good because of the government of Saudi last year. Actually, they are very strict about this COVID because they try to minimize the COVID cases. So it's compulsory for them to use digital payment. So there's no hard cash, there's no physical receipts involved. So 100% using digital payment. Either they can use their credit card, debit card, Apple Pay, and so forth. So this is something that we're providing to the community today in terms of the smart parking contribution.
Okay, thank you very much, Nasir, for the introduction. I think let's move on for interest of time. I'm just looking at the time right now. Let's move on to our questions that we've planned to ask, planned to address. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, it's all about funding, financing, and kind of putting the right business model so that it's from a business feasibility and viability, it's a goal. So maybe my first question is to the authority here. Before we go to then I want to go into the city council, and then from a entrepreneur and solution provider perspective. So in terms of funding and financing models from an authority standpoint, Dr. Zaidi, what do you tell people or companies that wants to be part of this, smart city, smart state agenda or movement? Sorry, Dr. Zaidi, you are on mute. Can you unmute?
Sorry.
Okay.
From the point of view, this authority here, we have a Malaysian plan, right? We have a 11 Malaysian plan, and now we are moving into a 12 Malaysian plan. Of course, from the point of authority, what we can see here is how this technology can contribute to this betterment of our communities, right? It's not just about the technology itself, right? And for the finance, of course, we welcome those who have this competency, capability to come up with a good proposal here, right? And then for us as authority in the digital transformation in Sarawak, what we can do, we bring this the subject matter as local council here to discuss together and to see what is business plan is. All right. Of course, if there is a need, not nice to have what I said earlier, all right, then we can think about how we can go forward. Right? And of course, as I said, in our point of view here, from our point of view, we are looking into this project that we have put forward to 12 Malaysian plan. All right. And I concur with you on this sustainability here. Of course, when we fund the project, okay, we want it to be forever. That is our intention. Right? We don't want it just to become just 1 year, 2 years on the road, and then people will not using it. So there will be more developments. All right. But to sustain it, government will not able to fund it forever. There must be some kind of mechanism where government can pull out the funding, all right, gradually, and let the market force take over, right? So there's the thing that we want to see. Business plan, we want to see the technology. Of course, technology today might not useful for tomorrow, right? Might not relevant for tomorrow. So we have to really careful and not just memorized by these people, but the technology provider, because we are not their servant. We are community servant. We are the rakyat servant. We have to look into the larger perspective of the people in the city itself. All right. So the funding and financing, of course, we need other institutions to help us. But as a government, as authority here, what we want to see is the sustainability of this implementation, and we can forward it to our highest authority, which is a cabinet, which is other authority, state financial secretary, to look into what the cost benefit that we can, right? To answer you, from authority, we welcome this institution to come with this funding, financial, all right? But we have to look into this sustainability of the technology and the adoption by the community into this smart city implementation.
Thank you, Dr. Zaidi. I think that's an excellent answer. I think. So I'm going to move on to Madam Mayor from a city council perspective. What do you do when you have a bunch of proposals landing on you? Everyone is like blowing their trumpet to say they have the best game-changing solutions. What comes up next?
Azmi, I can tell you right now, don't come to Subang Jaya if you just come up with a proposal without the right business plan. I'll just put it aside. Any proposal that comes to Subang Jaya must come with a feasibility study on how we can afford it in the long run. Whether it's self-financing projects like combining Safe City with parking just now. It is self-financing initiatives. The same with if you go green PV on the rooftop or LED, design it in such a way that we are able to pay over a certain period of time, or that we can monetize it. proposal have come, and when solution providers are thrown back this question, normally they will get brilliant and come back with some kind of solution with you. But if you are just operating the old style, okay, they propose, you pay, it's not going to work, because there are so many things to do. And like Dr. Zaidi was mentioning just now, it is what you need versus not what you want. We may want a lot of things, but what do we actually need? What does the city needs? What are the problems that they're trying to solve? And based on that, you need to prioritize which one you need to go first. Because even when Subang Jaya is having a problem financing, you can imagine a smaller town council in remote area in other states, they will have a bigger problem. So there are other ways of financing our project without coming with our own money. You can ask the federal to design a system that every local authority can use. They have done it with licensing system before, with OSC for development application, so they can do this. But for the well-off local council, they can customize it, design it better, or improve it. Or they can go first before any local authorities can catch up with them. So for other local authorities, I think we need help from the federal, we need financing from the state. The state can also design system. Like in Selangor, you design one parking system that can be used by all the local authorities, and we pay them back through commission from what we gain. So that is a good finance. And there are private finance initiative like the smart pole just now. The private sector can do it, and we can work out the financing in such a way that local authority doesn't have to pay anything. And there are also system that is done by entrepreneurs, that they come to us, that we can, okay lah, 20,000 bagi je lah, kesian dia ni dah design satu platform, rakyat boleh guna, peniaga-peniaga kecil boleh guna, ataupun kita ada satu platform untuk urban farming yang masyarakat boleh guna. So for those kind of thing, they have done it, and for us to appreciate them, I think they should be given due tokens lah. Kalau tidak, entrepreneurs pun tak boleh hidup lah kan. So I think there are many ways of doing it, and collaboration and partnership is the way to go.
Thank you very much for your answer. I'm going to move on to Encik Nasir, who's kind of been there and doing it successfully. In terms of my question to you, Encik Nasir, is slightly more skewed towards what do you think is the right business model to make it work? Because obviously you have demonstrated you're able to acquire more and more clients, right? So what would be the right business model for a solution provider to get into this space?
Okay, so yeah, if you can see, there are a few business models that we can apply to this solution. Like one of it maybe is kind of like a payment, for example, like Hajjah mentioned just now, like 20,000-30,000 system, you pay one off, and apa namanya, there also other solution whereby kita go mungkin contohnya by fixed monthly rental, for instance, in this case for parking, and also maybe revenue sharing, for instance. So for our case, actually, we can see in order for us to make sure that the system can be, the solution can be sustainable, because we want to have a long-term solution, there must be a win-win. So win-win means to say that the solution provider and also the owner, also the product owner, must be work hand in hand. So, for example, in our case, in smart parking solutions, as an entrepreneur, we are providing the platform, the complete parking platform for the local council to use it. So we cannot just say one-off sell to local council, because local council say that I don't have money to maintain the system. To buy, maybe we have, but to maintain it for a longer period, we don't have the money or the funds to fund that, especially when related to the small local councils. We have Majlis Daerah and also. So I think for our case, actually, the best solution actually go by revenue sharing. Means to say that from the transaction. So means that the more transaction you get, the more money you have. So and by having this solution, actually both party, local councils or the product owner and also the platform providers, people like us, work hands in hand. So how at the end of the day we can increase the collection to make sure that we can enjoy maximum revenue at the end of the day. So this is something that we are looking at. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cik Nasir. I think I'm also looking at the time. Let's go to the second part. I think some of the questions that I've kind of put together for the second part, which is sustainability and growth of this initiative, I think somewhat has been answered a little bit by all three of you. But I want to go back to Dr. Zaidi in terms of what do you think are the projects that you have in hand right now that you feel has that strong, sustainable structure to it? Because I think other people would like to understand how SMA would identify this initiative that is sustainable and have that growth, that modular trajectory. Perhaps you can give us one example of one initiative in Sarawak.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. To have a sustainability is very difficult process to identify, because sustainability involve people, sustainability involve, of course, money. All right, to get it to the right path, how we can have a sustainability in our context here, because our market is very small. All right, one of the project that we have, all right, we have taken what we call a brief strategy. We have our own payment platform, all right, which is Sarawak Pay. No other state have taken this what we call is a brief strategy here, all right. But to sustain it, you have to get this market or people to use it, all right. At the same time, we need the other kind of community, the business community, to join us. All right. Of course, in the beginning, we can see that what we call the inclusivity of the people using it quite small, because they don't realize the importance of contactless payment. All right, contactless payment. And when pandemic strike us, then they can see that is good. For that also, to get more people to use it, we have introduced this shake hand to get a reward. All right, but of course, all of us will agree that it's not a sustainable model. All right. For that, we need the other agency also to introduce what will be the benefit of using this smart Sarawak Pay. All right. We have to get the other agency. For example, our Sarawak Tourism Board have agreed, all right, to give to chip in this voucher type of implementation of rewards. All right. So the people that use it for the tourism product, be it to get this accommodation, be it to visit this park, they will get a voucher. Right? And to answer you here, it's not just one party to contribute into this sustainability, but we need to get more party to come in and contribute to this sustainability. The business themselves, like for example, we introduced that the new platform that we were gonna launch is to get this business entity to introduce their own voucher into this Sarawak Pay. So people will use it, not just a government to give cash reward every time they use it, right? And then to get this sustainability, all right, and to sustain for a longer period of time, everybody has to join the effort. Not just one party like SMA. Of course, we have been given this funding. Of course, there will be just what we assume is just become a startup funding. Right. This is to answer you to get more people to contribute into it. All right. This is what I can give you the Sarawak Pay model here.
Yes, that's. I think for my experience, I think that's a very strong, powerful initiative. Mainly the one that the project I did in Portugal, it's about having a digital ID with the components I did and how it can change the entire ecosystem. So that's very interesting. It's potentially very powerful. Let me move on to Madam Mayor. You mentioned about getting the B40 to be inclusive in terms of the participation of the local economy, whether sharing their the space for their base station, providing free Wi-Fi. What do you think would make that more sticky in terms of having that really roll out rather than a slower pace? Because when you talk to the technology providers, they are very focused on return on investment. They are very focused on whether there's a business case for a certain providing certain bandwidth to a certain area and so on, as you rightly say. So how do you kind of make this kind of work in a collaborative manner?
That's a loaded question. The B40 need access first.
Right.
So you have to have the infrastructure. You have to have the network. And empowering them enables them to afford this kind of this digitization with whether it's their gadgets, whether it's their data plan. So empowering them in a way, enabling them to be the user of this digital economy. We have tried a project where we try to market the products of the housewives in a low-cost project. Previously, they are a woman with no income, a single mother with no income at all. We taught them how to make bawang goreng saja, a simple thing.
Wow.
After that, how do they sell it? We try to package them in a more interesting manner and post it on the webline on a platform that we operate. So those are the things that they can get on the bandwagon for the furtherment of their entrepreneurship in the future. And what COVID brings is greater and wider outreach to people. I think now everybody is on social media. So with that, how do we help them earn money? How do we help them start their businesses? How do we help them study better? How do we help them get help if they feel depressed, something like that? These are the channels that the government needs to look into. It's not the old ways of putting up banners, keluar iklan dekat surat khabar, bagi ceramah ke apa ke. Orang dah tak dengar lagi dah benda. Everybody now is either on Facebook, Instagram. I pun terpaksa ikut Instagram dah sekarang ni. Jadi nak kena tahu apa yang anak muda buat, apa yang suri rumah buat, apa yang masyarakat buat. Sebab kadang-kadang orang lebih percaya apa yang mamat dekat Facebook tu cakap daripada apa yang kita cakap. Jadi tak kita kena appeal to the masses and provide them with the venue yang platform ni ada masa mula-mula dulu kita kata kalau nak join the platform you have to pay. Tapi sekarang ni dia jadi satu perkara yang it's self-finance dah. Buat masuk dalam platform tu boleh percuma saja. We get money from the advertisement and so on. So itu perkara-perkara utama lah. Dia kena ada connectivity. Kalau tak ada network, kalau infrastructure tak sampai, kalau dekat kampung line pun tak ada, tak payah cerita lah kalau anak-anak nak panjat pokok baru nak dapat line. Yang ini negara kita memang akan tertinggal. The government have to do that. Because kalau tanya utility company, dia kata kalau tak ada volume, dia tak nak masuk. So even in Selangor, dekat kawasan-kawasan yang remote tu, TM tak nak lay kabel kalau tak ada cukup orang yang bayar. And even for local authority, nak dapatkan dedicated line, kita kena bayar hundreds of thousands. Sedangkan kalau line tu ramai yang guna, we can share. So itu perkara-perkara yang tak kena hadapi. Keupayaan local authority terhad, keupayaan rakyat terhad. Tapi macam mana kita nak capai kepada masses? What more you cakap, kalau dekat kawasan Subang Jaya ni senang lah. B40-nya duduk dekat flat, kita bagi 1 tower, 2 tower, dia kumpul dekat situ satu tempat. It's just the ability saja, the width of the band. Tapi kalau dekat kampung tu, line pun tak ada, kabel pun tak ada, apa kita nak cerita? Does that answer the question or?
Yes, I think it does. I think it again highlight the fact that there can be crowdsourcing in this tension. Right? It's not just a top-down approach, and it can be, both sides meeting together. So with that, let me just ask this is another question which often arises, and I'll ask Encik Nasir this. To my point earlier, sometimes there are really good applications out there, digital services out there. I take into one example. Jakarta has done some really brilliant stuff in terms of applying smart technology to manage urban issues. But typically, if you ask somebody from Jakarta, have you heard of Jakarta Smart City Council? They've not heard of any, they don't even know Jakarta has smart city applications. So in your experience, you probably have the big task of rolling out your app to the market, getting end user adoption, getting downloads of it into their smartphone and so on. What is what you require? You need to kind of close the gap and have that successful end user adoption.
Okay, this is a very good question. Okay, actually, it's also related to what Dr. Jadi mentioned just now. For us, it's not only developing or creating an app. So I believe everybody can create an app, but what most important actually to make sure that your apps be known to public. So even for our case also, we're having the same problem. Way back then, actually, when we talk about Jom Parking, nobody knows about Jom Parking. What is Jom Parking? So we had a hard time to convince the consumer to use our service. Some of them they said, "Oh, this might be a scam, or spamming, something like that." So what we did was actually we are a bit lucky because of in our early ventures we involve a lot of accelerator programs. So we participate in this accelerator program. So at the end of this accelerator program, there will be a demo day whereby you will present your services, okay, to the audience. And from there, sometimes you also get a free advertisement from the provider, also called the program provider. And we done a lot of exhibition. We participate in exhibition, booths, go on ground activities. So there are a lot of costs involved to make sure that people knows about the services. Even until today, still not many people knows about our services. So there will be ongoing process we have to do to educate consumer or to inform consumer about these services. That's why most of the provider they cannot sustain because of there are a lot of costs involved. Not only developing the apps, but to maintain it, to do the awareness, to make sure that people knows about services. So there involve a lot of costs. And some of the provider they just stop at just developing. They're not doing the promotion. So that's why we can know that many people knows about the services, the existence of the services. So it's very important for the awareness is very important, and also at the same time because since for our case we are startup, so we literally a small company. So how we do actually we collaborate because we know that we cannot do by ourselves. So we collaborate. So we collaborate with people like maybe government agencies. We collaborate with corporate clients. So we for instance we collaborate with people like Boost, Grab, so that they help us to kind of to advertise our services. So by having actually we can minimize our cost, our own cost to come out with these advertising promotions. So for me, is very crucial for us to make sure that people knows about services. Then only then the services can be being widely used. But at the same time, to convince the partners, or not so-called partners, the clients. So the clients I'm referring to actually maybe the local authority, the solution provider, other solution provider. So that's one of the things we need to convince them. For example, like based on our experience, when we started the business, it's very hard for us to convince them because of literally that we know that 90% of startup fails, so that's why the local councils or GLCs, they don't want to take risk by appointing a company, a startup company, and another day maybe after 6 months the company is no longer exists. So that's why it kind of chicken and egg. So for workers, actually we done a lot of try and error here. But we are solely focused on what we have in terms of capability we have, specifically on the technology. So there are also areas that we have to look into that we still looking into it right now. So this is what we are doing. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Cik Nasir. I've also been told by our master MC that we're also running out of time, so I better get chop on this other two parts. I think let me just ask a more high level question, because I think even for me, in my line of work, my client tend to be more and more this chief data officer. So it's like a CDA, also CDO, chief data officer, because more and more companies out there have kind of put data as a key enabler to their strategies. So maybe I'll ask Dr. Zaidi quickly, in terms of your implementation plan, does one or do you have a data strategy whenever you roll one out? Sorry, Dr. Zaidi, you are on mute.
Okay, we have two strategies here. One is to empower our what we call these employees or government staff or government agencies, right? And then for that, we send them for this training to become a data analysis, DA or data specialist for that. And on top of that, we also have our data policy as a statewide, whereby this data policy will be governed by what we call a digital government committee that we have at the state level, that will compel all these agencies to contribute the data to our open data strategy, open data platform. All right, but of course, when you say that, oh, we need more quality data, more granularity data, all right, and with that strategy, we need to send these employees to get a proper training, a proper what we call its education. We can say this education, all right, to get them to bring or to develop their own data at the agency level, all right, and then share with us. This is our approach here, right? Government spend money for the training, and also have developed our platform and our policy. And then we get our entrepreneurs, whoever want to use the data, there will be a fee. But a certain limit that we, but of course we have to see what type of the data, whether it's a sensitive data, whether insensitive data that we have, and whether that data can be monetized or what. And but currently we are not talking about monetization of the data, but we want to do more inclusive kind of environment where the entrepreneurs and this agency to produce more data, and also entrepreneurs can share the data to us. It is to propel our economy. This is what we have in Sarawak.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zaidi. Let me move on, maybe to Madam Mayor again. You see in the near future, in terms of all these initiatives coming out, do you see the need for TBT or city councils to look at or to monetize data for themselves as well, as part of the bigger picture of sustaining that initiative?
Managing data needs to be sustainable. We just don't collect data for the sake of collecting it, but we have the data to lead to information. And we need that information that will lead to wisdom for better decision making. So the data that we gather must be prioritized in such a way that it tells us something. It tells the trend, it tells the quantity, it tells what the people need. So choosing what data to keep and formatting it in such a way that it can be easily analyzed later, like I've mentioned before, the way you store the data, the way you set it in certain fields and columns, those are important from the very beginning. And for local authority which has legacies of data, that takes a lot of money to reformat it again. Monetizing it comes, I think, for today, in today's world. I give an example that say real estate developers, real estate agents buy data from us. So we can fashion the data according to what they need. And our data need to be adaptable and flexible enough so that it can be monetized. Because come another group of lawyers that wants a different set of data, but from the same database that we have. So if our database is not formatted well, then it's quite difficult for us to answer their question. It's quite difficult for us to reprogram it in such a way that it answers their needs. So that is among the strategy. But before that, Azmi, I would like to stress that data needs to be updated. I have been in GIS since 1990, and when we give our system to another department, when they do not update it, it tends to just go to waste, because another department may not know how to use it, may not want to use it, because it is an additional job to them. In the 90s, when you give the GIS to licensing department, we thought that they can map it out, but to them, tambah kerja je, tak naklah buat. We are fine with the way we are going on now. So itu masalah-masalah yang kita ada. Ini belum cerita pasal data sharing antara agensi. Lagi sakit. Pasal nak selesaikan masalah banjir je, ada department-department yang tak nak share data. And siapa yang nak collect data tu dekat platform yang mana? Negeri mestilah nak data tu, tapi yang ini masing-masing ada teritori lah. But in the future we can afford to do that anymore. Senang jadi macam Sarawak je, paksa je letak dekat dalam satu center, habis cerita semua orang pakai. Dekat Selangor ni sebab ramai yang bijak-bijak kan, so masing-masing ada yang dah lebih advance daripada yang lain. So kadang-kadang bila yang advance tu, bila ditanya dia tak nak share lah dengan orang lain sebab dia kata dia dah keluarkan kos. So dekat situ lah. At the same time, we can monetize on that also. So sama lah, kita orang sama juga.
It seems like a healthy competition from where I'm sitting. Okay, Encik Nasir, I think you probably know this as a practitioner. For a user to continue using your service, there must be a level of trust that whatever they're doing, their information is secure. That's the level of privacy and so on. So how do you make sure that this happens? And is it a big investment on your part in terms of as part of your OPEX to maintain privacy and security of data?
Okay, so for us, since we are rolling out the public services, actually privacy and security is two things that we take highly attention, because we have to make sure that people are really secure or really happy using our service. That's why for workers, actually, we put a lot of costs in terms of providing the infrastructure, in terms of security, to make sure the system is really secure, can be trusted, of course, PDPA in place, at the same time, we also need to be careful about data because of, for instance, we're not sending data because it's something that we really giving the trust to our clients or to our users, actually, that though the data is the next oil, but the data must be kept in proper way and must be used in proper way. So we cannot simply just selling data. But touching on the data, actually, this is very, very crucial also by having data. For example, we had this discussion last week about the smart cities discussion last week, conducted by the BMW Foundation. So one of the things highlighted by the panelists, actually, the data on the EV station, EV charging station, electric vehicle charging station. They say that why there's certain places that people just always go there, and not all, then the rest of the station is not people there. So by go through the data, actually they found that actually because of that area, that charging station area, they have facilities that people they can mingle. For example, they charge their car maybe for half an hour. So within that, actually they can do other things. Maybe they can chat within their friends and family. So this is something that we're looking at. And go back into data. In our case, recently we already asked one of the data. Actually, we want to have a list of EV charging station in Malaysia. So these services is provided by the external company overseas. They are charging about 10 to 15,000 US dollar per annum. You just imagine how much they're making money on selling this data to people like us, So if we can have the data internally in Malaysia, talking about open data that initiated by the government, that would be great, because of there are a lot of data that Hajah mentioned just now. There are a lot of data, but maybe sit in silo. How can we have the data standardized? All the, maybe the authority can compile the data in such a way is meaningful, that can be used by the people like us, startup or any company that can use the data for the benefit of all of us. So that would be great.
I think looking at from analyst perspective, I think what you guys in the longer run is actually managing premium together, how these so in times in terms of how company like yourself can go up a few notches in terms of using this data, because at the end of the day, in the long run, you are managing premium space, right? So I'm looking at the time, because I would like to be very disciplined with the time, because we have very important people in the panel. We got to sign. I've got 3 minutes, but people from the floor. Before we wrap this up, to respect everybody's time from that perspective. So Zol, would you want to kind of take on the Q&A?
Okay. Yeah, your line still seems to be breaking, Azmi.
Oh, okay. I thought I have a fantastic 1 giga, whatever.
I'm not sure for the rest. Yeah, your line is still breaking.
Now it's better.
Now it's better.
Okay. So,
anyway.
Okay. So.
Please.
Yeah. So, can you take on the Q&A part? We have about 2 minutes. Maybe we can extend 3 more minutes or 5 minutes on Q&A before we close the session.
Yeah, sure. There are, okay, if we don't have time to answer here, we will respond it through, you can, those who ask the question can give their email address and we can respond to them. Here, one of the question here, is there any website related to open data platform? So, so to the panelists, anyone can answer that question. Is there any website? Or maybe Hasmi, our analyst? I'm not sure. Is there any website?
I'm afraid I can't answer that.
For Sarawak, we have a data.sarawak.gov.my. All right.
Okay.
And for Mampu, for the federal, they have a Mampu under the Mampu.
Okay, under Mampu.
Under Mampu, they have this open data Mampu.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zaidi.
Google it.
And then there is a question for Subang Jaya. Is the data sharing is within Subang Jaya or with other agencies?
We start with our own departments within Subang Jaya first, and there is this Smart Selangor Delivery Unit's effort to share within among the different agencies in Selangor. So both are currently ongoing.
Okay, thank you, Hajar Noaini. The third question is for smart parking here. Is there any possibilities for the smart parking system to integrate between each other to provide a seamless experience for the users? Currently, there are many system providers and users need to install in their many system in their smartphone.
Yeah, this is a good
Nasir?
question. So for us, we address this issue. Because we can see there's a potential of issues having by the consumer and also the service provider. So currently we have a common platform, we call it common platform, that can support any provider to have the service on board. For example, we are connected to local council ABC, for instance. So there are other apps provider would like to connect to this local council ABC. So long that the local council allow us to do so, so this application provider can connect it to our open platform. We have the public API that's available. They can use this public API to connect to our service. So we have the service now available. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There are three more questions here. Number 4, how to ensure digital advanced project can self-sustain with less involvement from the government to achieve the smart circumstances goals? I think partly Hajar Noaini has answered it. Probably you want to sum it up, Hajar?
I think I have touched a lot in this.
Yeah.
Well, if it's feasible and it has a good business model, then I think it can go on even without the government intervention.
Right. Okay. Okay. You have given some example just now also. Okay. And for the current situation here, which local authority or city in Malaysia that already success in the implementation of the smart city? Part of the concept or maybe. Okay, this one I think generally I can answer that. Generally we have got one example here, Subang Jaya, and also many other cities has been successful, as also in Kuching here, Sarawak, and you have also in Selangor. But it depends on how you define smart city, the smartness lah, or generally. So each city has its own what you call requirement and needs on how they implement smart city. So generally, it depends on how you define. And I think most of the city in Malaysia and the data that the survey, we did one survey by KPKT. There are about more than 60 to 70% of the local city has implemented smart city in one way or the other. Okay. And the last question is number 6. Are we encouraging POC in digital projects and also in the public-private partnership concept? Maybe Dr. Zaidi can.
Yeah, as I said
just now.
Yeah, as I said just now, we welcome any of these implementations. Right, proof of concepts is really good in ensuring whether this implementation will be getting the interest from the people, of the people. All right. So whatever it is, all right, before we can agree on the POC, as what I just said, we have to look at what is a feasibility. We have to
Feasibility, business model.
It's a business model. And of course, if we agree on the POC, and later on when the actual implementation has taken place, the consumer or the people in the city will be burdened from it. This is what we try to avoid, right? So what we can say that if a POC, of course, POC is a free of charge for us, whether implementation is good or not. But at the end of the day, we have to make decision whether to continue with the POC or we can stop it. But before we can decide on it, we have to see whether this community will get benefit from it. This is what, but we welcome, as authority, we welcome any ideas, right? Like Subanjaya, they have a living lab. We also have a living lab, also in innovation. We bring this local council to give what kind of problems to our entrepreneurs. Let them think how to give a solution for this problem. All right. But say it, yes, we welcome it. And I encourage all these local councils to welcome the POC. For that, we will get these more ideas. All right. But of course, the obligation to implement it is up to the authority or the local council.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Zaidi. I think that is excellent answers. I think Azmi, all the questions has been answered by the panelists.
Yes,
I think we don't have any more time, I think.
Yeah, so I can wrap this up.
Yes,
but
please.
I will start wrapping this up by answering probably question number 5. And this is a question. It's everywhere I go. This is the most common question, because a lot of people don't really see all the smart initiative that's happening, and rightly so, because the smart initiative should be ubiquitous in the background. It should be seamless. So I think the efforts done by the local councils is digitalizing the smart government part, the back end. And as a user, we just see the kind of like the end product of it and kind of take that for granted. But there's a lot of effort in terms of digitalizing that component of the smart umbrella. So I think to answer that particular question, I think it's fairly ubiquitous. You don't really see it. And that's part of the challenge of the smart city authorities and councils to kind of create awareness, because you can't see it. Okay, to 537, I'm going to wrap this up with, I think the most common denominator when it comes to the 3 inputs is that in order to move forward, there must be the kind of ecosystem partnership. There must be smart collaboration, which is usually outside the traditional collaboration. The traditional collaboration means what's in it for you, what's in it for me, today in my P&L. I think what the 3 distinguished panelists kind of highlighted is that smart collaboration encompasses a bigger picture, a bigger benefit. And I think companies that wants to get into this space will have to think about how to be smart in terms of collaboration. I think Encik Nasir mentioned quite kind of succinctly that even though they are open with other solution providers, it's not about working and getting the slice of the pie in silo. He's talking about smart collaboration across the board. I think that goes to the city council, that goes to the authority as well. I think for vendors and businesses out there, part of the first thing to think of is how do we put this smart collaboration as a strategy, number 1. Number 2, it's very important to understand the larger impact. So creating a feasibility on profit alone is not enough. I think you got to look at the impact, do an assessment on the impact on the citizen is another, and that would kind of strengthen your business case when you put forward. Anything else that I missed? I think that's about it. I think to respect everybody's time, as a moderator, that's my closing. Thank you very much to all three esteemed panelists. I would call them the mover and shakers of their own domain. You know, it's been really fun hearing all your inputs. Thank you very much. Over to you, Joey.
Thank you to our moderator and fellow panelists for an excellent discussion. Hope today's talk has benefited all. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar session. Please follow on Might Malaysia's Twitter, IG, Facebook, and website for further information. You can also watch today's channel in Might YouTube. You can also contact the Secretariat to subscribe to Might's webinar series. Have a nice day ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.